Hello, my name is Leslie Spees with Influence HR Consulting, and this presentation is HR Department of None or One, your guide to survive, thrive, and stay sane. Do you ever feel like this? If you're here, I'm assuming maybe you do. Or do you feel like this? Would you rather feel like this? Let's discover how. Just as a little background, I'm sure you know that HR can be very demanding, and many organizations have minimal resources, if any at all, to focus on it. Clearly, we can't really do an activity in the chat, but I'd like for you to think about all the hats that you're currently wearing. And in the next 30 seconds, just jot them down on a piece of paper. And we're not going to do an icebreaker since this is a recorded session, but I'd also like for you to think about the most challenging part of HR for you. Before we dive in to share some strategies, let's start by defining HR because I have learned in working with small and medium-sized companies that not everyone knows exactly what HR encompasses. Lots of people think it's hiring and firing, paperwork and payroll, but it's much more. It can be your secret weapon for a healthy, high-performing workplace. What it encompasses: aligning people with purpose, hiring and keeping the right people, developing leaders, employees, and teams, managing performance, staying compliant with labor laws, and managing compensation, benefits, and other rewards. Even if you don't have a dedicated person as an HR resource, you have an HR function that needs to be led. The reality of limited HR support is that you don't need HR until you really, really do. Then it's messy, costly, and frustrating. Some common issues that might result from a lack of focus on HR. Lawsuits, certainly don't want those. Lack of compliance, turnover, inability to attract good talent, lack of accountability, negative conflict, and even toxic culture. So, what can you do to survive? Is it even possible to thrive? Let's look at the difference between surviving and thriving. Surviving HR alone to thriving as a solo HR or HR as part of your other job. Reacting to issues versus anticipating needs, putting out fires versus coaching and empowering, doing everything yourself versus building a virtual team. So I say that it is possible to thrive, and let's find out how we can do it. Here's the Thrive HR framework that we're going to go through, and we'll talk about each of these items. First is time and tools. Clearly, making the most of your time is going to be very important in managing HR as a solo practitioner or as a part of another job that you inherited by accident, perhaps. It's also going to be important to tap into available tools and technology. I'm going to talk about 3 time management tools. There's many out there. Pick one that works well for you. Time management matrix, Pomodoro technique, and the big 3. You have probably seen this time management matrix before, also known as the Eisenhower matrix, and it's in the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And we'll just talk through each of these quadrants. So you've got quadrant 1, which is do it now. And quadrant 1 is highly important and it's urgent. So these are things that you have to do: crises, pressing problems, deadline-driven projects. Now, if you had been more proactive and maybe managed your time well, there may be things in quadrant 1 that wouldn't have been otherwise. Quadrant 3, Interruptions, some emails, some meetings, administrative work. These are things that are not important, but they're pretty urgent. You got to get them done. And they're things that you can consider delegating. Quadrant 4, things like scrolling social media, unproductive activities, busy work, and time wasters. Not important and not urgent. Those are things that you can probably delete. And the reason that I waited to talk about quadrant 2 last is quadrant 2 is where you want to spend the bulk of your time if you can. These are things like planning, prevention, relationship building, and development. They're important, but not urgent at the moment, but they can help you in better managing things that might become urgent in the future, like crises and pressing problems. So what you want to do with this is you can use it on a daily basis to map out your tasks. You also could use it for a while to get a sense of what are the things that I could potentially delegate or delete, and how could I be more proactive. The next technique is the Pomodoro technique. What you do with this is you create a list of tasks ordered by importance, set a timer for 25 minutes, work on a task for the duration of the timer, take a 5-minute break. After 4 Pomodoros, take a 15 to 30-minute break. And then you've got the big 3. This is as simple as every day, start the day by identifying your top 3 priorities and focus on accomplishing them throughout the day. I want to share some other tips for managing your time. You might want to block your calendar for HR time if HR is a part of your role and you have other functions that are part of it. You may want to theme your days. So maybe Mondays you focus on recruiting, Tuesdays you focus on benefits, Wednesdays you focus on relationships with leaders and employees. Learn to say no or not yet instead of yes all the time. Very important. I'm going to talk about vision and value shortly, and those are really good lens to determine what you say yes to and what you say no or not yet to. Set office hours to manage interruptions. Outsource or delegate where you can. And create repeatable systems so that you're not recreating the wheel every time you do something. You want to establish boundaries, set response windows and standards around when you won't be connected. We'll move on to talk about tools. There are many. HR software, and these are just a few examples: Gusto, Bamboo HR, Paychex, SHRM, benefits brokers, etc. Local SHRM chapters can really help you with your network and other HR communities. HR consultants, yes, we're helpful. Payroll outsourcing, Asana or Trello to track projects, and AI can really save you a whole lot of time. And there's many different AI options that you can look at. Probably the most commonly used are ChatGPT or similar platforms like that, but definitely can save you time. I'd like for you to think about what you're doing well in managing your time, the tools that you're using that are helpful, and what was shared that you might consider to be more effective and efficient. Right, we talked about time and tools. We're moving now to the H, which is HR compliance. These are must-haves to protect the business. So very important. Having an updated and effective employee handbook, knowing the employment laws that apply to you based on your size and complying with those, making sure your files are organized and that you have retention processes in place. Ensure you have the appropriate labor law posters. Employee paperwork and I-9s is all in order. So you're having employees complete what they need to in terms of paperwork and your I-9s. are accurate, whether they're online or paper copies, and they are kept separate from the employee's personnel file. Wage and hour compliance is very important in working with small and medium-sized businesses. I have found many where they had jobs misclassified. And job descriptions are important and foundational for HR processes. All right, we got the time and tools, we got the HR compliance. Now we're going to move on to relationships. You can't do it alone, and you don't have to. If you don't have the luxury of a built-in HR team, you can create one virtually. You want to make sure that you have good internal relationships within your organization. You want to have good relationships with leaders, understand their needs and challenges, and partner with them and build trust. For employees, you want to stay in touch with employees to foster trust and prevent issues from festering. If they trust you and are willing to come to you, then it can eliminate a lot of work on the back end and even potential legal issues. External relationships. HR communities already spoke of SHRM. Certainly they have lots of tools and resources, but you can also become involved with your local chapter, North Carolina SHRM, or your state chapter if you're in another state, social media groups, industry specific networks, all very good resources. Go-to advisors. So that can include things like your benefits broker, EAP, HR consultants, PEOs, all good advisors to tap into. And get yourself a HR of none or one buddy to be a sounding board, or buddies. It'd be great to have more than one. To foster relationships, schedule one connection, touch base every week. To have good relationships, obviously you have to nurture those. So it's important to keep yourself accountable for that. Create a resource list of HR lifelines and make yourself an HR advisory circle of 3 to 4 contacts that you can reach out to when you're stuck. Now moving along to improvement. Develop standard operating procedures, or SOPs, which are essentially just step-by-step guides to completing processes. And the reason that you want to do this is really twofold. Well, maybe threefold. So the first reason is that when you have an SOP, you don't have to recreate the wheel, as I spoke of earlier. Second reason is if you get hit by a bus, then somebody might have something to know how to do what they need to do. And the third reason is that it gives you an opportunity really to kind of look at the process you're using and identify what might be improved, automated, or delegated. So highly encourage you to develop SOPs if you don't have them in place. This is just a sample of what an SOP form might look like. Create a stop doing list to reduce inefficiencies and low value activities. So you may find that as you're looking at your processes, maybe looking at your SOPs. You can also do that from the time management matrix that I spoke of. In thinking through best practices, are you currently using SOPs? How do you identify and implement process improvements currently? Because you definitely want to have something in place for that. The V, vision and values. I want you to think about identifying a 1 year and a 3 year HR vision and using this kind of as a North Star to guide yourself and determine what's most important to work on. Also, having 3 to 5 core values, and these would probably be your organization's core values, guiding principles for behavior to support the purpose is important. And these are the things that you're really going to use to guide your activities. You want to make sure that your goals are connected to the purpose of the organization and help others do the same. To support all this, you want to hire people who fit in with your core values and the culture that you want to create. Sure that we have all had bad hire from time to time, and they can certainly suck up a lot of your time. So, the better job you do with the recruiting process and making sure that people fit in with core values, the less apt you are to have those bad hires. If you do have somebody who you quickly determine is not a fit, manage them out during your probationary process or use your disciplinary action process to manage them out. Once you get talent onboard them well so that they will stay and get them in the right seats so that they can contribute most effectively. So this is a whole nother class. If you'd like more information, reach out. But doing these things are really going to help you stay aligned with the vision and values and save you time. And again, if people aren't performing or behaving well, get them off the bus. The E is empowerment. Coach leaders to handle basic employee issues instead of fixing things all the time. I know early in my career, I would do lots of things that really should have been the manager's job, thinking I was providing good customer service. But really, I was holding them back from learning and I was making myself feel overwhelmed. Train managers in accountability and other functions. Provide templates, guides, and decision trees to enable autonomy. Set some clearer expectations on what HR does and doesn't do. I don't have this on the slide, but also empower employees. So we all have those frequent flyers that come to HR complaining quite frequently. So start coaching them. Say, what do you think you should do about this situation? Have you talked to the other person? What's your solution for that? And you may find that they may not come quite as often and perhaps will start to address things on their own. Like for you to think on a scale of one being worst to five being best, how well you're doing at empowering others. And think about how you could further empower and coach them to free yourself up and help them grow. All right, we have talked through the thrive. I could have made it thrives with an S, but really, I just think self-care is so fundamental to everything. So you want to take your meds, and it's not what it sounds like. The M is practicing mindfulness. So important. There's many ways you can do it. Deep breathing, meditation, taking a walk in nature, setting reminders just to bring yourself back to the present moment, doing yoga, tai chi, stretching. Mindfulness really dials down your body's reaction to stress and just really important in self-care. The E is exercise and movement. Many of us have sedentary jobs. We don't move enough during the day. And it's actually been said that it is the new smoking. So find something that you enjoy to get in some intentional exercise, even if it's short spurts through the day, and get up and move throughout the day. Diet, I don't mean go on one, I mean eat foods that nourish your body. So, fruits, vegetables, protein, try to stay 5 ingredients or less, eat whole foods, all tips for a good diet. Eat breakfast. Don't let yourself get hangry because you're not going to handle situations or people very well when you're hangry if you're like me. And then the S is sleep. Adults need about 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Many of us brag about how we can function on so little sleep, but we really are not functioning well. So, to take good care of yourself, make sure you get sufficient sleep and know when it's too much. Ask others for help when you need it. I know if you're like me, you may hesitate to do that sometimes. You don't want to bother other people, but actually, people like to help other people. So if you need help, ask your boss, ask your coworkers, ask your peers, tap into your external network, and explore what you can download, delegate, or outsource. Resources to help. Don't go it alone. Don't go it alone. Excuse me. I have some HR communities through Influence HR Consulting. The HR Essentials is complimentary. You get invited to some free virtual events. You get a weekly email with tips, tricks, and free resources. And then I have two other levels and want to speak about the Thrive HR system briefly. So we've talked about all of the components of Thrive, which are listed here. The Thrive HR system process involves having an initial meeting, and with that, we will establish a Thrive operating plan and also do a HR compliance audit and look at some of the elements of the employee experience. You'll get ongoing support, so HR protocol with questions, exclusive tools, resources, and events. Make sure that you're up on employment law updates, monthly group coaching on a Thrive element, and 20% off all other services, 90-day check-ins, and then annual planning. So there is a QR code here, or you can reach out to me via email if you want to learn more about this option. Certainly no pressure, and hopefully you got some nuggets for things that you can do to survive and thrive as a HR department of one or none. Here we are thriving. I'd love to talk with you more about how I could help. So feel free to reach out if I can assist you in any way. Thank you so much for listening to this webinar.